Welcome to the Radical Lifestyle Podcast, brought to you by Generation to Generation, where you'll be inspired by the past, equipped for the present, and prepared for the future as we engage in conversations with people from around the world. If you've been inspired by the guests that we've had on the podcast, please like, subscribe, comment, hit notification bells, whatever you can do on the platforms that you're listening on, so that more people have the opportunity of hearing these and engaging in our community. Hi everyone, our guest today is Daniella Kirk, my sister. We're going to talk a bit about the work that she does with anti-human trafficking and her initiative Operation Open Eyes. So as we dive into it, Della, can you say a bit about where you're from and what you do?
Okay, well, I'm from England. As you said, I'm your sister and also a co-worker. So started working with Daphne in Generation to Generation, kind of grew up doing that. And then 10 years ago started Operation Open Eyes, which is, what's the mission is to open eyes to the injustice of sexual exploitation and inspire action.
Okay, for people listening, I will put the website in the description box. You can go and have a look at more of what she does. There's a whole lot more to what she does, and we'll dive into some of that now. So maybe just take us back a little bit. Where did this start? Where did you start getting a heart for anti-human trafficking? I know, like most of the things with us, it's a little different. So yeah, take us back to where this kind of started, or where we think it might have started.
Sure. So it's kind of a long and windy story, if you like, but growing up, I remember going to cinema and going to movies, and if it even touched on the abuse of women or children, it would leave me angry. And I remember being, as a teenager, leaving one time, and I heard God say, okay, Danielle, you have two options. You can choose to face this or you can ignore it. Both are fine. What do you want to do? And I remember saying, if this actually happens, please make me strong enough to face it. And then, as with most conversations with God, I forgot all about it until years later, when actually you two were meeting with an editor for a magazine we used to write for in Singapore. And she was talking to you guys about her work in Thailand with this organization called Beginnings Foundation, who throw Christmas parties for red light districts every year. And Daphne, you actually said, oh, you should talk to Daniella about that. And when you came back and told me about it, I remember saying to you, Mom, I don't know if you can remember this conversation, yes, but have I talked to you about this before? Like, what made you say that? And your response was, do you remember?
I don't know. I just said it.
So you can remember if I talked about it. So Daphne's obviously my mom. And from then on, I went to Thailand that year with this friend, and standing in the middle of a red light district with lots and lots and lots of girls caught in sexual exploitation, thousands. I heard God give me the scripture in Matthew that says, the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. And I looked around and went, you're not kidding. And then I got a picture of this gate with Jesus standing in front of it, holding it closed. And there's the estimated 27 million or whatever people caught in human trafficking behind him. And every now and then he would open the gate and one or two would come out. And it was like everybody behind the gate was holding a candle with a flame. And when they were released, and the restoration process failed and they ended up getting re-trafficked, the flame would get extinguished and the hope was gone. And so the statistics are that we're currently rescuing 1 to 2% of those caught in human trafficking. And out of that 1 to 2%, 70 to 75% end up getting re-trafficked. So there's a lot of work to be done in the restoration process. And I felt God say, I'm stepping back from that gate soon. Tell the church to get ready. And I said, okay. I had no idea what that meant or what it looked like, but I was like, okay. And then at that time, I was working with Generation to Generation. And as we were traveling with that, people would ask me, oh, I heard you went to Thailand. Tell me about it. And I would. And then they'd say, well, what can we do? And I'd say, I don't know, but I'll find out. And about a year in, I think I said to you, Andrew, I was like, okay, we need a name for this. Like, can you help me come up with a name? And you helped me come up with Operation Open Eyes. And so that since then, we've been focusing on the prevention, because I think that's something everyone all over the world can do. Raising awareness that it happens, because if you don't know that it happens, you're not going to want to do anything to stop it. Restoration, because as you had the statistics, it's huge. And that's a really the long process, and really one of the hardest parts. And the networking with organizations and individuals to put an end to sexual exploitation.
Okay, and we'll come back to what other people can do later on the prevention side, but also other ways that they can get involved. Mm-hmm. You do this stuff not just in England, not just in America, you do it all over the world. You've gone to places to assess safe houses for other organizations to see if they're doing things right. Yeah. But one of the things that you do, and you do it every year, is you go to Thailand and you help with some safe houses there with some stuff that they do. So can you talk a bit about the work that you do in Thailand specifically?
Sure. So in Thailand, I'm actually leaving on Sunday to go this year. I spend about 2 weeks in Thailand working with the Beginnings Foundation. And
this will probably go out Sunday. So you are leaving today for Thailand.
Perfect.
As people listen to this, you're probably on a plane currently flying to Thailand. So, okay, carry on.
There we go. Perfect. So I go with the Beginnings Foundation, and we go into red light districts and invite as many girls as we can to this Christmas party. Now, for the girls in Thailand that work in these red light districts, they have to work 28 days a month, or nights a month, and they only get a couple of nights off. If they need another night off, it costs them 1 week's wages. So saying to them, hey, just ditch work and come to this party, it's not going to work. They can't afford it. I mean, how many of us could give up a week's wages for 1 day off? Right? It's not realistic. It's not feasible. So we actually have to buy out the girls who want to come. And we can go in and we get, sometimes, the bars say no, none of the girls can come. Sometimes we get 1 or 2. And we've had some amazing experiences where the whole bar is shut down and all the girls will come to the party. And then at the party, we give them gifts, because most of the girls have never received anything for free before. So we'll give them a gift. We play games with them. We do craft. And then we have a speaker, usually from the local village that they've come from, that speaks their dialect, and then he will play it's in Thai. I don't know what he says. I just know that it goes from being crazy fun, the girls laughing, they're in hysterics, they play these games, and then somehow it just switches and they get to hear about Jesus. And honestly, the transition is like, what just happened? We give them a meal during this time. It's like a banquet, and they hear about Jesus, and then they get to hear about the Beginnings Foundation and all the opportunities they have for the girls if they can leave. Some of them can. There's a whole trafficking looks different all over the world, and the way it looks in Thailand is very different, I think, than most of the rest of the world. But usually they can't. But what has happened is they've brought their younger sisters and said, I'll work twice as hard if you make sure she never has to do what I do.
People may hear that and say a lot of them can't leave. Now, there's a lot of reasons, and maybe that's another episode, but just briefly give a couple examples of why someone may not be able to leave.
Sure. So when people think of trafficking, they often think about being kidnapped, right? Or in the West, there's a lot of boyfriend grooming. But in Thailand, there's religion, there's culture, and of course, finance obligations. So the religion is this Thai Buddhism. And because of reincarnation, like men are better than women, so you're always wanting to be men. However, the men's spiritual role for the family is to become a monk for 2 weeks, a few years, whatever, and spiritual merit for the family. As the woman's obligation to provide financially for the family. Yet, if I'm a poor family and I can only send one of my kids to school, obviously the boy's better, so I'm going to send the boy. But yet it's still the female's job to earn financially. So by grade 9, they often are sent to a factory or a red light district to work to earn money. The other thing is, shame is the worst thing that you can do in Thailand. Is cause someone shame. So to fail to say no, to not be able to provide financially for your family is huge. And unlike in the West, where, you know, kids hit 18 and they're like, see your family, I'm out, your obligation to your family in Thailand lasts your lifetime. So there's so many things. So even if someone wanted to leave, if the parents say no because they need the finances, you're not just going to leave. And it's such a foreign concept, but there's all these little pieces that you're having to kind of untie in order to get someone to freedom, really.
Okay, and then we'll talk more now in terms of those that have been rescued, what that looks like. Maybe you could give some examples of some of the girls they have rescued, what they've gone on to do.
Yeah, so Beginnings Foundation pre-COVID had rescued over 60 girls. I'm not sure what the numbers are now. I'll be able to find out this year, and a lot of those teenagers. And so those were put through education up until graduation. And some of them graduated in Bible studies, fashion and design, culinary school, science, engineering. I don't know if I just said that, but many, many different things. And we really want to give them not just, hey, you've been rescued, now here's what you're going to do, but the whole point of rescue is, who are you? What do you want to do? And how can we release and equip you for who you are and what you want to do? So a lot of them have gone on to do that. The Beginnings Foundation supports them all the way through to graduation, sends them to school, houses them. But they've also opened a second safe home, which has skill building for people who are graduating out of sexual exploitation, if you like. They're getting too old. And so we're teaching them like bakery or fashion and design work and things like that. So there's also another section, opportunities.
So could I mention one girl in particular? And
Sure.
How about you telling us about the girl in red? Because I think this story is a great summary of why you do what you do and why we all need to be involved.
Yeah, the girl in red. So she is the why behind what I do. You know, often when you talk to people in this type of work, there'll be one person that has stood out to them that really impacted them, or one story, and she is mine. So the first year I went to Thailand to these Christmas parties, we're at this banquet and I'm at a table with about 8 or 9 girls, and I don't speak Thai at all. I'm only there a couple of weeks a year. So how do I engage with them? By pulling faces and pretending I can't use chopsticks so they can teach me, and just, you know, making a fool of myself, which, as you know, comes naturally. But, you know, you can, with a smile and some goofiness, you can really go a long way. Well, there was this one girl on my table that she just looked so young. She must have been about 15 and just looked so innocent. And at the end, we give them all a gift. And I'd given out all the others, and it got to her, and I had 2 left in the bag. And I had a wrapped gift and I had a teddy. And I held them out to her and said, which would you like? And she grabbed the teddy and she held it so close. And I ended up going back 6 months later. And of course, I had to go find her. And I don't know what she had been through. I mean, I can make some pretty good guesses, but of what she'd been through those 6 months. But she had gone from this really sweet, innocent teenager to someone who had been so beaten up that she was so high on drugs, she was drunk, she was out of it. She just could not even focus on my face, give me the time of day. She was defeated. I just don't know how else to describe it. And then I went back 6 months later to the next Christmas party that we did, and she was walking around in the tightest red dress I've ever seen, walking around this bar like she owned the place, and she wouldn't give me the time of day. And to me, seeing that transformation was like, this is what happens to these girls. They come in, they're like, yeah, I'll just sell a few drinks, it'll be fine. Then it reaches the point of, if you don't earn this much money, you cannot work here anymore. And the only way you can earn that much money is to sleep with men. So one girl, after having to do this 1 or 2 times, went to the bathroom, looked in the mirror and said, I can't do this. I can't do this anymore. And then she said to herself, if you don't do this, who is going to pay for your brother's hospital bill? And she said, you must do this. Stop listening to your heart. Start listening to your head. You can do this. You will do this. And that's really what happens, is they have to shut down their heart. They have to shut down the part of them that cares, really, the humanity part of it. And then in order to sustain that, they need to make you believe that they want it. And they have to kind of tell themselves that too. This is what I want. So when you see them in the bars and they're all like, yeah, this is what I want. This is my choice. This is who I am. This is my home. What it's taken for them to get to that place is beyond imagination. And seeing what she went through, just everyone matters. Each of these girls matters. And it not just in Thailand. In order for you to sell yourself, you have to shut down that part of your body. When people say choice, what was the other choice? Right? Was it getting to work in an office? Was it getting to do these podcasts? Was it, a good job that's going to pay? Or was it, I have to make my family's life better? Like, how do I do this? Or what is the alternative of the choice you're giving them, really? Is it really a choice?
Mm-hmm. There's a lot to think about there. We could almost finish at that point, but let's just go on a bit into, as Andrew said, to talk about what can the average person who is listening to this podcast do? Are we just helpless in the middle of it? What can we do?
Absolutely not. Everybody can do something. And this is really the heartbeat of Operation Open Eyes, is I want everybody to feel like they walk away from here being able to do something. So first I would say is learn to spot the signs of human trafficking. Like, what does it look like? So for instance, I had one pastor talk to me and say, I don't get this human trafficking thing. Tell me what I need to know. And after I told him, he goes, oh my goodness, I bought a video camera off online. And when I went to pick it up, the guy said, do you want to go with that? I have one of every color. What girl would you like with that? And he goes, no, I'm a pastor. I don't do that. And he goes, do you think those girls were trafficked? Yeah, I think they were. And he's like, if I'd have known that, I could have made a call. I could have alerted the authorities. I could have done something. And so for me, just learning the signs, you never know when you're going to come across something and you're like, this is it. Right? I can do something. Learning your national human trafficking hotline, so who to call if you see the signs, even if you just suspect something, make a call. That whole, if you see something, say something. Same thing applies. If you even think you're seeing something that doesn't look right, tell somebody. The other thing is, so 90 to 95% of those caught in sexual exploitation were sexually abused at home first. Right. So learn child protection training. I recommend Stewards of Children's Darkness to Light. I train in that. So people can reach out to me if they'd like to know more. Get your organization, your churches, or your community, or just your family trained in child protection training. learn how to protect the children, how to spot the signs of abuse, again, who to call, how to talk about your body and boundaries with your kids, how to create safe environments in your workplace, in your community, and also talk about it, raise awareness. For me, getting as many guys on board as possible is huge, because as much as I can work on the prevention and rescue side, it's the guys that are going to end the demand. And so learning and understanding what it takes for these girls means that, as what's it called, like locker room talk, with the guys of like, oh, I'm going to get a girl tonight, shall we go to a strip club? You guys are the ones that are on the front line to these conversations that can be like, hey, actually, do you know what it takes for them to do it? And is there a way that we can actually help them without having to abuse them first? And so those are just a few ways.
Yeah. And I'll put an email in the description box. So for people interested in training, they can find an email and contact you. So that's good information. That's practical things they can do where they are, where they live. That doesn't involve them getting on a plane, going to another country. You don't have to have military style SWAT team skill sets to do that. No. Yeah. So it's something that all of us can get involved with in your local area, and obviously you recommend doing that. So you leave on Sunday. You leave the day that this is going out, and so for people that have heard about what you're doing there, how can people support with that work? I know that you've shared about this in some other places that we've traveled to recently, and people find out and then they say, well, okay, how can we help with what you're doing in Thailand? So what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing right now is financially. It costs a lot to throw these Christmas parties, to go into the bars, build relationship with the girls. There's a team on the ground full time, but it costs money to get these girls out. And I know that's controversial. Yes, in an ideal world, we wouldn't be putting money into the thing we want to stop. However, as you heard, that there's just no other way to reach them. So
maybe I can actually put I'll put a picture of the banquet. I think you've got a picture with the girls' back of their heads. So for people that are trying, they maybe want to imagine what it might look like, I'll pop a picture up so people can see it. Okay, Karen.
You can do that. That's nice. Yes, do that. I'll send you that. So yeah, give financially, and you can do that through Operation Open Eyes' website, or even you can do it on Generation to Generations. That's fine. Whoever you're more comfortable with or know better. And really at this time, finances for this is huge.
How much does it cost to buy a girl for the night? For what do people pay for that?
Pre-COVID, $30. So I'm presuming it's about the same.
Okay, so and for you, when you go to these bars, you're literally, like you said, you're paying for their time so that they can have the night off and go to this banquet, be treated like royalty, etc. But then, if the money runs out, then you're in a situation where you're in a bar and maybe there's 10 girls and you have money for 5, and then you're in that situation where you're literally having to choose who is it that comes, who gets left behind. And so for people listening to think, well, it's only $30, it's not going to do it. Actually, no, it can save a girl in these situations. So really recommend people do that.
And of course, sometimes people's instinct would be, I'm going to rush out, I'm going to go to the nightclubs, and I'm going to get these girls out. You will actually help organisations and individuals to know how to do that. Am I right?
Yes. You can't just go in and think it's going to be easy or better. I mean, you've kind of heard the grooming process of what happens to a girl, and there's no reason for a girl to tell you that she doesn't like this, or because her job is to sell it to you that she does. And again, with all the complications of what leads them there, and I say girls, but boys too. This happens to boys as well. It's just not that simple or straightforward. However, if people want to do some outreach, they want to go in and build relationships with people like this, then I can train and see what's happening in your area and how we can do that.
Yeah.
Sorry, you going to say something?
No, I was just going to say, so think about what you're saying. This is going to go on indefinitely unless the prevention piece is brought into focus.
Yeah.
Not only will you help in the area of prevention within organisations, etc., you will also help them to deal with one of the things that's prevalent on the earth at the minute, which will leave people very vulnerable, and that is trauma.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That, the thing with traumas is any new traumas will always trigger any unresolved childhood traumas. So what we saw during COVID, which worldwide pandemic, is anxiety got on the rise, suicide went on the rise, childhood sexual abuse went on the rise. All our coping mechanisms, unhealthy coping mechanism came to the fore. Alcoholism, things like that. So people who weren't that traumatized beforehand are now a little bit traumatized, and people who were traumatized are now megally traumatized. And so a lot of the ways to prevent human trafficking is caring for traumatized people. And in our society, like you said, there's no less of them. There's so many, and that's something to learn, to be trauma informed, learn how to help people with trauma, and what's things that are not helpful that people tend to do but we shouldn't do, so we can stop that would be great. So yes, I do a training called Trauma Helping or Hurting. But
do you have to be a professional to be able to do this training or to be effective?
Not at all. I want everybody to do it. So my goal is to learn as much as I can for the professionals, dumb it down for us lay people, so that we can
Mostly for me.
Sorry?
Mostly for me. Dumb it down for me.
People like you. Yeah.
Yeah.
With my brother, I can say that. So that we can help and walk alongside the professionals to help, and also to learn the boundary lines of actually, one of the things they say is, a little knowledge, you can do much damage, because you think you know everything, and we don't. There's a reason people go to school to learn about all this, but there are things we can do that would help. And also to be able to spot, again, like spotting the signs of trafficking, you go, oh, I need to call the professionals. Same thing with trauma is kind of when you learn to see the signs of things, you can go, okay, now I know I either need to go here for more information, or I need to refer you to somebody, or at least here's what I can do to walk alongside you and help you.
Maybe we can end on this. Just one more thing that you want to provide for people. One of the things that churches say about themselves is we're a place for broken people. And it sounds nice. Yes, we want to be the place for broken people. Yeah, cool. It's a nice catchphrase. But normally our next question then is, well, how broken are we talking about? And, are they ready for one of your girls who's just been rescued to just rock up to church and integrate with everyone, right? So you've got this idea of things that you would like to see happen in churches and communities that you want to provide training for. So can you just talk a bit about that element?
Yeah. And the church is, the heart of the church is beautiful. Yes, we want to be a place for the hurting and broken, and amen. We need that. That to me is the church's job, right? That's what Jesus commissioned us to do, commissioned us to be, as a place, a hospital basically for hurting and broken people, to accept people from all ways of life. However, when we go to churches, what happens is, in a small group setting or one-on-one, is someone shares, hey, here's my struggle, and we go, oh, let me pray for you, and then let's never talk about this again. Not because we're against it, we just don't know what to do about it. And so I want to equip churches and give them tools to be able to really help the hurting and broken, and know where to refer them. And again, to create healthy boundaries, that if a girl like this does walk in, the only way she knows how to relate to men is to wear her sexy outfits and flirt. Are our marriages strong enough that a husband can turn to his wife and go, can't stop looking at her boobs, and the wife can go, yep, I can't either. Because and be like, this isn't a you problem, this is that, but we need to love her, and let's be someone who can teach this girl that actually not all men want to use her for sex, that her value is elsewhere, because you've got to change the belief system before you can change behavior, right?
And you want to help them to develop these small groups, like community groups.
Mm-hmm.
So talk a bit about that element, because are they easy? Like easy work, they're easy to take care of, no problems.
Working with traumatized people so easy.
Yeah.
No, I mean, think about it. Like, who do you have in your life who lies to you all the time, who doesn't show up when they say they will, whose head's a mess, lies, whatever, and you've shown up for them? And if you're in youth work, I bet a lot of you are like, oh yeah, teenagers. It basically is that. I always say that working in youth work prepared me for the red light district, and working in the red light district prepared me for being a youth worker. But you're dealing with someone who's who's living their life in survival skills. Why are they going to tell you the truth and be vulnerable when the last people they did that to trafficked them? Or, if a client says, do you want to do this? And they go, no. And then the client goes, oh, okay, well, still have sex with me. It's like, but what was the point of me being honest when nothing happened? And so we're having to be people who can be stable and consistent for traumatized people, to help reteach them boundaries, to help reteach them life skills, to be friends. That's something these girls are missing, is friendships. And so, my heart is to create community groups within churches that are, they're friendship groups is what they are, that are trauma informed, know how to work with people with trauma, that can come alongside, be supportive of each other, because traumatized, hurt people, and they are draining. So you need a support network just for you if you're going to walk alongside these people, but also just to love them and be their friends, and expect things to be messy and difficult and hard for a while, but also to believe, because of Jesus and our tools that he gives us, that we can walk alongside them to freedom.
Well, I just want to honour you, Daniella, because we know from the inside out that this is costly. We also know that in a way it's your greatest joy to do. And I remember you saying to me once, I feel more at home there than I do in the church. And we have seen you come alive in that situation.
I think a few listeners just fell off their seats when you said that.
Yeah, probably.
Well, don't say that. Andrew used to always say, like, he'd love it when people would come over, and at 10 o'clock at night, I'd be like, all right, I'm out, see ya. And they'd be like, where are you going? And Andrew'd be like, she's just off to a strip club. Like,
that's it. I wouldn't say anything else.
Not to work, guys, to visit my friends and to love on them. But
I do again want to encourage people, wherever you are in the world, to reach out to Daniella if you have questions, or you want to know more, or you would like to have access to some of her training, and she will get that and start a conversation with you.
Yep. So for everyone who's listening, thank you. Really appreciate it. Again, websites, contact information, all that stuff will be in the description box, ready for you to listen, to go and check out.
And do download, pass this on, whatever, like it, etc., because we do need this message to get out. So have I covered all the things I need to do?
I think so. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff. But please, more than anything, pass this on to other people, so that other people, one, find out how they can be equipped, but also how they can help support other people that are involved in this kind of work. Daniella, thank you. Appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Remember, if it inspired you, share it with others so we can see more people engaged in this community.